Welcome to the Ascension Football Show. I'm your host, Kieran Edwards. And today on set, we have the president of the SSFL to talk about football. School football is on the front burner. We've seen it regionally. And we're having some discussions with Marie Gonzalez to find out what's the state of affairs with local schoolboy football.
Well, it has been coined a principals league simply because
Tell us a bit about your executive and the persons that form your executive.
sponsors such as First Citizen, Coca-Cola,
And schoolboy football is on the front burner. And we have with us the president, Mr. Marie Gonzalez. Pleasure to have you on set, sir.
a pleasure to be here, Mr. Edwards,
Yes,
and
yes.
your esteemed Ascension League's organization.
Thanks. I want to get into it. Take us through the process of you becoming the president of the SSFL.
Very good question. I've been into the educational system since 1981. After coming out of training college, Valson Teachers Training College, went to Success RC School, my alma mater, taught for 2 years there, and from there into secondary school, Mount Hope Secondary School to be precise, since 1988, of which when I retired, I was still a member of the teaching staff there. In 1990, 2 years after entering the secondary school, I got involved in the secondary school football league since 1990. I've been serving in the East Zone for a number of years in the executive as a floor member first, and then moving from there as assistant secretary, then as secretary, then as vice chairman, and then from 2010 I've been the chairman up to 2021 when I assumed the presidency of the secondary school football league. I have also been serving during that period of time at the national level as a general council representative of the East Zone. I've also served as the zonal executive rep at the national executive position, and I've also been a member of the disciplinary committee as well as the appeals committee. So by and large, and even before that, my deep-rooted involvement in football, especially as a FIFA assistant referee, and even more so as a FIFA fitness instructor and FIFA technical instructor, I feel those things in particular, and grounded and rooted also as a physical educator, and also very much involved in sports psychology and sports counseling. I found it necessary that moving up the ladder to the esteemed position of presidency would put me in a better position to be able to serve the student athletes in Trinidad and Tobago.
So you've been around the system of the SSFL for quite some time. So it's not a fly by night and you just happen to become president and they say, Marie, let's take up the job. Yes, all right. Tell us a bit about your executive and the persons that form your executive.
Presently at this time, we have Mr. S.L. Sicharan, who is the chairman actually of the South Zone. He's the first vice president. The second vice president presently is the secretary of Tobago's SSFL zone, and she is the second vice president, that's Cyan Blackman Walsh. The secretary is the stalwart, Mr. Azad Khan. He has been secretary since 1990.
Yes, that has
And he has
been.
been the fifth secretary and the most long-serving secretary thus far. We also have in attendance, in office, I should say, Mr. Lawrence C. Prasad, another long-standing servant and officer of the league. He is the assistant secretary of operation, and Mr. Jared Elliott, who is actually the secretary of the South Zone, is the assistant secretary of administration. I may also say that Mr. Lawrence Prasad is also the secretary of the Central Zone.
Okay.
And then we have the auditor, Mr. Kazim Khan.
Okay.
So those are the persons who are presently serving this tenure of office in the SSFL.
When we always hear the term, it's a principals league, and what is how is that deemed a principal league when it comes to the SSFL?
Well, has been coined a principals league simply because of the fact that the point person within the school is the chief figure and head of the school, in this case the principal, who is expected to be the official representative of the SSFL. In the absence of him, because of the overload of work has to be done by him or her, we usually will now designate a responsible and trustworthy person,
Right.
possibly maybe a parent, a coach, a trainer, a teacher, as the case might be. And it's in light of that, it being the principal being the appointed person, as I said, and the person that is targeted as the official representative of the school, and also that close link we have with the Ministry of Education. It's coined the
Coin.
Principals League.
Okay. And the structure. All right. So when let's say school football resumes, how is that structure of the SSFL normally operates? What's the structure
That
of that?
we have quite a very well structured, constructive, and well organized and systematic system in place, structure in place. So the 5 zones, which are the East, North, Central, South, and Tobago, they will have their management committee, of which they replicate the national body. And in light of that, they will have the chairman, vice chairman, secretary, assistant secretary of operation and administration, with the 2 general council rep from the zone and the zonal executive member who is on the national executive. Having said that, we also have the understanding that we have meetings during the season between September to December. Constitutionally, it is held once every month because of so many different issues that will need to be addressed during the season. In the off season, we expect it to be every 2 months or when it ever deems fit.
Right.
And every year we have the annual general meeting. We also will accommodate extraordinary general meeting in the event that there are any burning issues that need to be addressed. For example, we had 2 extraordinary general council meeting a few months ago, to be precise, and we dealt with, for example, the outstanding financial audited report as well as constitutional reform.
But currently, as you mentioned, the AGM of we like to find out a lot of football organizations are in debt and have problems financially. What is the financial standing of the secondary school football league at this current
Well,
moment?
I would say it is quite satisfactorily, reasonably, and respectably. We are comfortable where we are. Certainly, we can do better.
Yeah.
All right, there's always room for improvement. It wasn't like that many years ago. As a matter of fact, there was a point in time the SSFL had no sponsors. But during the period of time, the marketing strategies that we put in place, and also creating the hype around the youths, this case the student athletes, sponsors such as First Citizen, Coca-Cola, Sportsmax Digital, even Malta, at a point in time would have been on board, as some of them still are on board, given the support. At this point in time, we are reasonably, as I said, financially viable. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic impact on the world and Trinidad and Tobago, and more so the sporting industry and the SSFL, one of the sponsors is unable to continue. We are still at this point in time under discussion with 1 or 2 other prospective sponsors who are desirous of coming on board, and we are working with them, because in moving forward, as long as sponsors, and I would like to maybe change the term sponsors, to refer to partners, because when you have a financial entity or institution that aligns itself with your policy and your philosophy, as in the SSFL, we have partners that work along with us because they buy into the product and they support our cause. So in light of that, at this point in time, we are reasonably comfortable, but we are working towards ensuring that we bring more partners on board.
Because that's what I wanted to get to. I wanted to ask, within light of the pandemic, companies and sponsors, as you say, partners, financial issues would arise. How is it the SSFL is looking in terms of looking at very different sponsors? Because we'd have the cells and the Motor Carib and the traditional sponsors, the banks that normally lend themselves to sports, but there are other sponsors now or other companies that may have strived in the pandemic, not normally being a sponsor to sporting organizations. How are you looking at maybe changing your focus in terms of who you reach out to in terms of sponsorship?
Well, we have lost two of the sponsors, and that is because maybe of the economic issues, and that is Shell as well as Malta. And we do thank them sincerely for the contribution that they would have made to advance and to promote youth football in Trinidad and Tobago, the SSFL. Certainly with other persons and other financial bodies that we are looking at, even what I say the Ascension League is one of them that we have round the table being discussed, and I think maybe it's just a matter of time before we table and send official correspondence to the league and see how we can maybe work together in addition to one or two other partners that we're looking to work with to ensure that we have an even greater solid foundation, so collectively and in good collaboration we can harmoniously work together to advance and promote football in Trinidad and Tobago.
As we say promote football, I want to take a quick break, and when I get back we want to talk about the resumption of some sort of schoolboy football or competition. So when we come back from break, we talk a little more about what is the future for school football in Trinidad and Tobago.
Pest control is a pain, but you don't have to go it alone. If you're a business that needs someone who will fix your problems point blank, go with the brand that's tested. Go with Terminix. Born almost a century ago in Memphis, Tennessee, Terminix International's mission has been to spread its innovations across the world through its integrated pest and termite management system, reducing the infestation of pests and vermin. Our Trinidad franchise neutralizes the threat of tropical insects and ensures that companies, from food production to hospitality, protect their investment and get the maximum value from our relationship. And we've been doing it well for over 20 years. Termites and pests are relentless, but they're no match for Terminix. Contact us today for a free consultation and quote, and let's introduce you to convenience. Protect your premises today. Choose a service provider that persists. Talk to Terminix.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Hey, Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. So everybody say, hey, oh, we wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions. Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. At our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. Or a fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634-1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. Life's better on a boat.
Amante Del Cafe is located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, McBean, Couva. Amante Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
And we're back. Miri, Jamaica is having schoolboy football. I want to get into it straight off.
Yes.
Everybody's saying this is on the street. The word on the street, as you know, Ascension is close to the ground and how we operate. The word on the street is Jamaica is having schoolboy football, and Trinidad is not having a league for 2021. Jamaica 3 million persons, Trinidad 1.4.
Yeah.
We have in Trinidad more persons vaccinated than persons in Jamaica. We have less cases than persons in Jamaica. Jamaica is roughly over 90,000 cases. We are at about 60,000 cases.
Yes.
More persons vaccinated, as I would have mentioned.
Yes.
But they are having their league, their school league running, and we are not having our 2021 season. What is Jamaica doing better than us in terms of having that football being played with amongst their school population?
First and foremost, Mr. Edwards, I want to extend heartfelt congratulations for the move that Ascension League made towards pursuing the commencement of the Ascension League, which, as we all know, regrettably was not considered at this time. But still, don't be daunted by it. Still work towards it because it's just a matter of time. And I think other entities like the SSFL and other football organizations has to take a page out of your book. Now, in reference to the Secondary School Football League, which is ISSA in Jamaica, we had a meeting quite recently, as a matter of fact, last Monday, with Sportsmax Digital, of which Mr. Nicholas Matthews is the CEO. And we did commend him tremendously and highly of the fact that they were able to commence not only the Secondary School Football League season, but the National League.
Yeah.
All right. They had, when we had meetings with them earlier on, they had intimated to us by advice that we could possibly look at Manny Manjan Stadium, Hazley Crawford Stadium, and Atto Boland Stadium as the three entities rather than spread it too far so we could manage. We had that along with our health and safety protocols. Everything, I guess, just like Ascension League, went to the relevant authorities, and there was a level of reservation at that point in time. It reopened with some expectation for us to have something tangible in September of 2021, if not a truncated season to start in October. But then the vaccination issue within the school population became a daunting and challenging task, and it really put a spoke in our wheel, not to say that we wouldn't continue, but we were looking forward to have a physical season with the schools. Having looked closely at what Jamaica has done and the support and confidence of the government, working along with the sporting industry and more so the ISSA to have it done, what was established there is that they have now isolated one venue, and that one venue they're going to have all managerial and the systems put in place to control the protocols and to adhere also to the health and safety protocols there. So in light of that, we are elated by the fact that they were able to start so that the youths of Jamaica will be in a better position while they, as a population, understand they still have to be disciplined to respect the dreaded COVID-19, like we in Trinidad and Tobago has to also understand we need to respond to that. Because of making that move, Karen, what is Jamaica spearheading that showing is that those youths will have a slight advantage, or even a greater advantage. CFU and CONCACAF youth tournaments, and also as they are now involved in the World Cup qualifying, right? Tournament, which we see them giving their very best, and we, as a Caribbean country, and we want to wish them all the best. So they were able to do that because of the mindset and the belief among themselves that they can achieve this as long as the significant and relevant parties respond in a disciplined way to ensure that they execute this activity in a very successful way.
You mentioned the Caribbean football in terms of a setback for our youth teams. We are behind Jamaica for some time in terms of senior football. You just watch how Jamaica is competing in the World Cup qualifiers, and you watch our team limping or trying to qualify for that rung of 8. And you see that we are behind. There's no problem with that. We fessed up to that. When it comes to restarting a youth league and restarting a secondary school league, you're talking about missing 2 years of football. You're talking a guy in Form 3 is now required at the start of the pandemic, is now in Form 5 and is required to play senior football, never playing any second 11, as we call it, or championship football. And what the product of the secondary school football drop because of this lull in almost 2 years of inactivity?
Just like the secondary school football league, and it's quite a good question, just like the secondary school football will be affected. As a matter of fact, all other football entities in Trinidad and Tobago will be affected too. To what degree they are affected is based on what they may put in place to try and buffer the degree of how they will be affected. And that is why, as a responsible and respectable and professional organization, which is the SSFL, we are making a concerted effort to ensure that we, at least, if not in the vacuum that has been created now because of the pandemic, that we could still keep the student athletes engaged in activities that are positive, uplifting, beneficial, meaningful, and encouraging to them. We would like definitely, Karen, to get back on the field of play. We recognize the positive cases have not dropped. Also, the death rates are about the same level. So it is giving us a signal and a message that we need to be very mindful of that and to be very careful. What we are also wary of is that with the football as it is, we already found ourselves, or find ourselves, I should say, in a very precarious position, which is we are now scraping the bottom of the barrel within the Caribbean as far as position. I mean, it's difficult for us now to beat some of the countries that would have easily defeated years ago, the Guyana, the Grenada, the Cayman Islands, etc., etc. As you quite rightly said, we literally had to dig deep with some of the quality players that we have to get into the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
And I mean, congratulations to Angasif and his technical staff and the players for really representing us well with all the challenges that we have. Now, what is important is that that exercise would have been a rippling effect and create an inspiration for the younger divisions.
Yeah.
But what has to happen is that the governing body, which is the TTFA, which we continuously want to work harmoniously and in collaboration with, has to ensure that the policy, the philosophy, the structure, the system is consistently there and adhered to, so that we have no break in the continuity, so that there's a smooth transition of players from the under 13 to the under 15 to the under 17, the under 20, and you could go on until they reach the senior level.
But do you think the SSFL has a role to play in terms of that continuity you talk about from under 13 to 15 to, because we normally see school football operating in a vacuum more or less. When it comes to, yes, maybe under 17 they pick some players from playing schoolboy football, but when it comes to the younger levels, they don't really seek the school leagues, because that's where all your young players are playing. Have you been engaged with the TTFA thus far, being president, in terms of figuring out a way to work closely or together with the TTFA in terms of selecting national youth teams? Because there are 3 youth tournaments that we didn't attend recently. So that situation, how do you see that working, that relationship between secondary school football and then the TTFA with their youth structure?
Well, what the present scenario is, and has been over the years, is that even with previous executive of the SSFL, we have always extended ourselves to the governing body to see how best we can incorporate what we are doing at the SSFL level, so that the national level can benefit from what we are doing. Now, primarily, the SSFL is not fundamentally 100% a developmental league. We are partially developmental, but also competitive. Now, because of the constraints that we find ourselves being under the MOE, which is the Ministry of Education, we are guided by the policies and the Act of the Ministry of Education. So therefore, all sporting disciplines, inclusive of football, on the 12-month calendar, must be given or should be given a space by which to have their event. We are fortunate enough to have September to December, and because of the nature of the game of football, it's the most popular game in Trinidad and Tobago and in the world. And we are very happy to be part of it, with all due respect to the many other sporting disciplines that are also making their significant contributions. That being said, as I had indicated earlier, if there is something that is documented systematically, for example, let me share this part with you. Mr. Alfred, who is now the president of the Tobago
TFA,
Football Association, when he was elected recently, which I congratulated him on, all right, he called me and we spoke, and he was concerned in having the women, which is most likely the young girls who are involved in the Women's League in Tobago. How can we now work so that there will be no clash of the leagues, where the same set of girls who are in the secondary school playing wouldn't have to choose them between either that or the league. Our system is, in order to avoid, to protect the players in the SSFL, we have a ruling in the Constitution that states that you cannot be playing in another league while you're part of the SSFL, and that is primarily because of one main factor. And I'm sure you will attest and agree with what I'm going to say now. There's an insurance that we have on all the players, and therefore, in the event of any injury, the SSFL takes responsibility based on the nature of the injury to subsidize that player for the full recovery. So if he or she now was to take part in another tournament and get injured there, it is not fair to us now to stand that injury that the person may have incurred. And therefore, in light of that, returning to where we are now is how can the SSFL navigate, maneuver, work together with the continuously with the FA to ensure that we have some level of continuity. Why? Because at this present moment, and even before that, the level of football that is played at the SSFL level does not equate to the level that is expected or the standard at the CFU or CONCACAF. So what is supposed to happen is that the work that's being done by the SSFL is now incorporated into the TTFA, where they will have their elite program, and therefore with that elite program now they lift even the level of football of the school boys or girls, and they will now reach to the standard of the CFU or CONCACAF. Now, as it is right now, regrettably to say, and that is why John and Jane public, or in the public there, they have a concern why it is these guys are not stepping up to the competition at that level. It is unfair to actually take a young man who's operating, or girl, at playing at the same level of the school here, just I guess maybe in Jamaica and maybe Grenada and Guyana, etc., and then put them into a competition, let's say in CONCACAF, right, where these youth teams are exposed with having maybe sometimes 20, 30, 40 friendly games before a tournament. When you're now taking 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 schoolboys or girls and just putting them into a system and expect them to perform.
Because I would have looked at the US youth soccer system, because they have a whole system for the youth, where they have their collegiate football is played, and they have a specific time for that.
That's correct.
And then outside of that, then the national teams will take set up, and their regional teams will take set up, and their elite programs would come on board. So when you see a USA youth team come out, it's the amount of playing time they would have is year round, because they have the school playing time, and then they have their own tournaments set up. How far along are we from having a system like that, you believe?
Well, we have successfully done it. But I think one of the main factors, Karen, that we have that is a real drawback to us in Trinidad and Tobago is the lack of consistency. Because we have had within the very same Pro League, a youth Pro League that really accommodated and facilitated for that type of development. So therefore, not during the SSFL season, the Pro League took part early on in the year. So these very same players, and by and large, we need to be also mindful about the recovery, the physiological recovery of the player. He or she cannot survive for 12 years playing. They need it. When we look at the periodization, you need to have that area of rest and recovery. So that has to be, we do as much as we can within the SSFL to educate the players about that. but with the respective clubs too, that they could also
Yeah.
enhance that. So if there is a continuation of the programs collectively within the 12-year calendar, inclusive of the recovery or rest period, then I am sure if we continue along that line, we will do well. But what happened within the last, 5 to 8 years? There was an absence of youth football, and therefore SSFL now being a continuous uplifting league in the country was seen arbitrarily and inadvertently having to fill the void for youth football when that was really a bit
Yeah,
unfair
yeah,
to us
yeah.
because the FA was supposed to have this system in place, and all SSFL will do is complement it.
And lend to that
Yes.
structure.
Yes, but the players are there. It's just now we, the administrators, have to ensure that we put the structure in place and give them the program and the training to follow. And we return to where we rightfully deserve to be, up in the where the air is rare and into the top 3 in CONCACAF.
I truly
Yes.
believe that. I truly believe that. Let's talk the skill tournaments, the skills tournament. How did that come about, and what it is, what it really is?
Well, one of my points in my campaign moving into presidency was to have online programs in light of the fact, which was earlier on this year, April the 15th to be exact, that because of the COVID-19 and the uncertainty as to know when it may come to an end, we have to now have plan B and plan C, etc. So I had indicated to the executive from the onset, and even before that I had it in my manifesto, that we need to push to have online activities, and one of them will be basically to facilitate, to accommodate, to engage, to involve the student athletes in online activities, which they will still be doing some of the very same skills that they will do in a football match. They will do it separately and individual and apart from. Now, in the program and in the approach, we would have had things like dribbling the ball, passing the ball, kicking the ball, goalkeeping, etc. Right? That's the initial intention. However, when we look at it in the time frame between now and the end of this year, we felt it necessary just to tweak it a bit and to have an online, the inaugural, historic, first online ball skills, ball juggling challenge showdown. So we were looking at the age groups, and we decided rather than go with all the age groups that we have, which is Form 1, 13 and under, 14 and under boys, 16 and under boys, etc., 15 and under girls, senior, we decided, listen, we may be a bit biting off more than we can chew in inverted commas. So we decided to keep it into 2 age group categories, boys and girls, as a pilot project, see how this one, which we most likely is anticipating will be a real, with great expectation, anticipation with bated breath, that the students will be responding to it in a positive way. So we're going with it with the ball juggling. We have done 2 demo of it, which is by our present 2 female senior soca warriors, in the person of Maylie Atten Johnson, renowned midfielder, and the present captain of the Karen Forbes from Tobago, who, as you know, has a Kick It with Karen event, and also she has now released the first book, Woman of Substance.
Yes.
And she'll be launching it around the 10th to the 11th.
We are hoping to have her on set when she launches her book as well.
So that'll be great. And so in light of that, we decided to go that way. Some of the basic rules in it are, for example, that you will wear the football uniform of the school, simply because we want you to still associate and identify yourself with the school. Forms are sent to the schools through the principals.
Yeah. So you're registering through the schools as normal.
Correct.
Okay.
So you get the forms from the principals. You register because the principal will have to sign and put the school stamp on it. Officially, you put as the player, student, athlete, you put your passport ID, and you indicate the age group that you're doing. And as I said before, those who are 16 and under, 45 seconds to do your demo, 90 seconds if you're over 16. That being said, some of the other guidelines that they need to adhere to are must be a size 5 ball. You must show to the camera size 5. You must bounce the ball on the surface so we'll see how much pressure it has there, because certainly, as you know, a softer ball is easier.
Yes.
Right? Not that we are in any way speculating.
But
They will
but
do that. But this is all part of the criteria. Also, too, for them to respond to the fact that they can do it with the creativity, the originality, the videography, which means with or without music, the aesthetic, the body parts that you're using to execute the skill, the smooth transition of the ball from one body part to another body part. If the ball touches the ground and it is part of your act, the judges will deal with it accordingly.
Right.
They will know fully well if it is.
It
right?
means
So it's guidelines and rules and regulation like that we have drawn up and we have forwarded out now to all registered schools, and even those schools that may not have played in the last season of 2021 but may be interested. They're entitled to, and they're so interested, they're doing the registration will be for the next 2 weeks. And the submitting now of the video clip will be from since the launch on Thursday to the 17th, Friday the 17th of December.
Okay. So you still have time to collect your package, get registered, and still be able to create a
now, interestingly enough, in addition to what you're observing there, is that there's a special award we would like to provide, which is the school that has the most amount of participants.
Entries,
We're waiting first to see how the registration is, the response to the registration, to know if necessary to go in that direction. Because that is one of the things that we were concerned about. If we left it for all the various age groups, the load of videos that we may have coming in, which we'll have on our Facebook page and also on the website, and we hope we'll maybe working along with Ascension League if we could get it, one or two of it being shown here too, because Sportsmax, as a matter of fact, Digicel has told us categorically clear, keep them updated, keep them informed. They would like to follow the competition, and they will use all their social media platform to showcase it on behalf of the.
Well, I want to give you that assurance as well. Anything needed, any assistance needed on the Ascension side in terms of airing and promoting the tournament, we would assist as well.
I'm sure the executive will be very heartened and happy to hear such.
We would assist. When you come with, you mentioned the maybe a prize for the school that has the most entries.
Yes.
What are some of the prizes, or you're still working on that, or do you have prizes for the winners and stuff?
Well, usually our prizes at the end of the year function for any season would be basically trophies, medals, and you would have, depending on the sponsor or the partner that we have, like First Citizen, you'll have, for example, maybe the account taken out at a certain amount to start off the account. So certain things like that, or with it maybe for the sponsors like Coca-Cola, in addition to cash, they may provide products that will go towards the school, etc. And it's along that line we primarily be looking at it, but it does not mean that we will in any way curtail or ignore other prices that could work to further enhance the image and the status of the
I would have played in the secondary school football league, and I still have more medals from under 14
Okay.
but that is a prize in its own. I don't think it have a course you could put on a prize from your secondary school football. So I understand that you have mentioned the partnership with the TTFA and the secondary schools football league. Being a stakeholder, being a delegate to the general meeting of the TTFA, everything has been going on in the media. We've seen everything going on in the media. What's your take on the Normalization Committee engaging the courts with the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act in terms of liquidating the debt of the TTFA, valued at, 98 million from Ernst & Young, What's your thoughts on that process currently?
Exceptionally good question there, Karen. And even before that, in answering that question, we have been having issues with the state of football in Trinidad and Tobago with accountability and financial accountability, etc. To reach that humongous figure of 90 plus or almost 100 million, it is really totally a gigantic and exceptionally challenging issue and task to deal with. The Normalization Committee, as we all are aware, have been mandated by FIFA for any country, and in this case, Trinidad and Tobago, who may be having problems beyond their control, to come and, as the word say, normalize, right? Supposed to normalize the situation. They have been given a 2-year mandate to do such, and we're getting very close to the end of the 2 years. I would have thought, as the president of the SSFL, and I would assume most likely, not assume, but from discussion with the membership, that we would have been more advanced with the 3 mandates that were given to the Normalization Committee. And one of the major things, as you just mentioned now, is the bankruptcy and the insolvency. Those are 2 dreaded words, right? Because as long as we go down that route, although we understand the reasons why, as to that approach being taken to avoid maybe the heavy hand from the creditors, who are all around looking for the pound of flesh and rightfully deserving of it because they provided the service. One would have thought that some other more innovative approach and creative approach, rather than going to the point of being bankrupt and insolvent, could possibly still be considered as a means of addressing the situation. Has all options been exhausted? Is the question we have to ask ourselves. Now, for that to happen, it means that the information must be communicated crystal clear to all the stakeholders. And as we have recognized, the communication was an issue, and apparently it still remains an issue. That, like any entity, if you want to build the trust in membership and with the stakeholders, communication is important, and not only communication, but the information that is being imparted must be of the level of credibility. Now, I'm not in any way casting any aspersion, but so I'm saying is that the process right now has to be beefed up, where the membership has to be given what the reality of the situation is. The membership of which the SSFL is one of the stakeholders need to be consulted, because we have views, and somewhere along the line we are part of the solution. This is all part of Trinidad and Tobago trying to create the best mix so that we can return to where we rightfully deserve our position in football in the Caribbean and in CONCACAF. I suspect most likely with that approach that there will be an extension of the Normalization Committee. If that being the case, we hope and pray and trust, hope and pray that we will have something that is remedial, corrective, that can rectify the situation in a not too distant future. Because the longer we stay to deal with the matter, is the longer the youths of the nation who are so interested in the game of football and has remained a critically important dimension with helping the society to keep them on a positive lane away from the negative and criminal elements, that we have a responsibility to provide that platform in order to create that uplifting, that encouraging, positive, productive, meaningful mindset in the hearts and souls of our young ones. Because this we are doing, and no matter what, whether we do it now, whether we did it in the past, now, next 5, 10, 15 years, it should always be in the back of our minds. The future. What are we doing for the future of the nation, which is the youths? And that is why primarily I will focus a lot on using the term student athletes rather than athlete students. Because first you are a student in the school, as part of your education you have sports for which they engage in. Football is one of them. So that is why we term you as student athlete. Pushing you, supporting you, encouraging you to go after your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations.
Before we go to the Lasso Free hot seat, I want to ask you a question. In your belief, two questions actually. One, you mentioned that the normalization committee might, in your belief, may have an extension in terms a possibility of that. If that extension is given, do you believe Mr. Haddad should remain at the helm of the normalization committee? And the second question is, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, 1 being the lowest, what rating do you give the normalization committee in terms of communication with the public, the stakeholders? I think they are the two most important persons they should communicate with. And then we don't know about the communication with FIFA, but in terms of locally in Trinidad here, in terms of the public and the stakeholders, the delegates to the general meeting, what rating do you give them in terms of communication?
Well, looking at the first part of the question, is that there's a reason why I would have intimated that there's a possibility of an extension that may be requested, because the work that was supposed to have been done within the 2-year period are very far away from achieving that. And I mean, it's only realistic that if the work has not been accomplished, that an extension be requested. It's only fair or natural flow of things that will happen. So it's in light of that I say a possibility exists that a question will be made for it. Now, I would want to also believe that having been given the mandate, Mr. Haddad and his colleagues came with possibly good intentions to deal with the matter. It may be, based on what they have now presently experienced, it maybe needs a lot more collective assistance in solving and dealing with it. And that is why maybe they have, in inverted commas, now looking at bankruptcy and insolvency as a way of handling part of it. So I would like to still give them the opportunity, not necessarily being replacing anyone, but still give them an opportunity, and if the extension, to prove their worth, right? Because okay, you have put up your hand and you have accepted the responsibility. So you have maybe encountered some difficulty along the way. Hey, it is not so much in the starting, but it is in the finishing of it. It is in the resilience, the perseverance, sticking to it, adhering to what is supposed to be done, and doing it. Don't surrender under pressure. So whether it be them or someone else, preferably them because they're already there and they know what it's like, get the job done. Because it can be done. It can be done. Get the job done. So on a scale of 0 to 10, as far as, well, their performance and communication, I would give them possibly a 5.
A 5.
A 5, yes.
Okay. Well, let's take a break. I hope you're ready for the Lasso Free hot seat. When we come back, we put Mr. Gonzalez on the Lasso Free hot seat.
The situation we have here is that these characters, and I refer to them as pests, right? What they are doing is destroying our country, but not on my watch. No street, no turf, no block shall belong to these cockroaches, right? It's no longer business as usual. Happy hour is over. If they don't fear God, at least they will fear Terminix.
Have you considered how your methods could impact on pests across the country?
I find we look after the rights of pests as opposed to the rights of the 1.3 million law-abiding citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I wonder if Roach Ladden's son come here for the carnival, if you'll interview him, eh?
But how can you defend one shot, one kill?
What, you want me to throw a pillow at him?
I didn't say that.
No, well, if a roach jumps in front of you now, what will you do?
Run.
Oh, Jesus, Lord Father.
Pests bothering you? Call Terminix at 672-5007 or 672-0042 or visit our website at terminix.co.tt for a free quote and consultation. Join our fight against pests.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Ascension! Ascension! Premium quality and style make you stand out all the time. Ascension is quality for champions. Ascension fit is always right. Take your game to higher heights. Ascension got the quality for champions. So everybody say, hey, oh. We wearing Ascension when we play. To run out on the field in style. What's the brand that we want? Ascension! 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 We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension. Quality for a champion. Ascension! We wearing what we wearing is Ascension.
Get in the game with Ascension. Quality for champions.
Amante Del Cafe is located at Magnificent Mall, number 271 Southern Main Road, Vancouver. Amante Del Cafe. Happiness begins with brew.
Lasso Frame Maritime Limited, the best in marina services. At our facilities, security checks ensures that all vehicles are secured. Our newly renovated bathrooms are always kept in a clean working order. Need repairs and maintenance? We have you covered. Our qualified workmen will get the job done. Boat storages, from our marina, you can easily push off for a family sailing trip. Or out fishing with the boys. Or a fun DDI experience with friends. Boat repairs, secured parking, extensive camera system, boat charters, boat rentals, down the island parties. Contact us at 1-868-634 1653. Lasso Frame Maritime Limited. The best in marina services. Life's better on a boat.
And we're back. Mr. Gonzalez, we're putting you on the Lasso Frame Arena hot seat.
Yes.
Want your all-time best Trinidad 11. Not no, I don't want no bench, man. Don't tell me like they just substitute. And I ain't picking me up, pay them on my bench. I want nobody on the bench.
Right.
Also, because being a FIFA referee,
Yes.
I want your best Trinidad to be good
Okay,
FIFA referee.
I'll come to that one just now. So let's look now at the starting 11.
Mm-hmm.
Earl Spider-Man Carter,
In your goal.
goalkeeper. God bless his soul, the deceased Russell Teixeira, Selvis Figaro, Clayton Morris, Brian Williams, the defenders, midfielders, Russell Atapi.
No Soca Warriors defenders, no Marvin Andrews, no Dennis Lawrence, none of those players make it. I realize you're going straight to school with Teixeira, and you stop up by the strike squad. You stop. You bought it a little earlier, but
give a little chance to have midfielders and strikers.
All right, well, let me hear midfield.
So Russell Atapi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Russell Atapi, Arnold Dorica, and who could be the next person, boy? Okay, I'll come back to them. That's two.
That's two.
4.
Oh, you play what first I
5.
played? I played a 4-3-3, or you played a 4-4-2?
I think right now I had to be at a 4-2-4, boy.
Yeah.
4-2-4. So 4 strikers now, right?
Right, yeah.
Good. Dwight York.
Mm-hmm.
I had to bring in Steve David here.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other midfielder is Gally Cummins.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, 3-4.
Stern John.
Stern John.
Right? And one more player, boy.
No, I know one more. That is your team. You're three in your midfield.
I got them already there?
Yeah, you're three in your midfield. You're three in your midfield.
Plus, right?
You're trying to make a bench for one for bench. Who is the player that you're playing on the bench? Because you pick three. You put Steve David. You put Stern. And then you have Dwight York. Who's the next one that you would have wanted to put in there?
You mean as a striker?
As a striker.
It's
because
okay.
Leonson and they would have.
Who?
Leonson and you have
Leonson is one of them too, you know.
You have some
seriously considered
so none of the new school.
As a left footer.
So none of the new school.
You mean presently playing now?
Playing now. The Molinos, the Joven Jones. How do you look on the new generation of players?
But it's not a takeaway from the new generation, but and I give them all full support along the way. It's just that, well, I guess I am not fully 100% confident as I am confident in the names that I just called. Maybe they have to do a little more to prove to me that they deserve to be in that 11.
I think the newer players too need to understand the shoulders that they stand on and understand we need to step up to replace some of these guys in terms of our legacies and whatnot.
And what is important too is this. I mean, you mentioned the Joven Jones and the Molino, and I respect that. But what I am more importantly to me is consistency and performance, like the West Indies team, with all due respect. Right? You can give you a good game today and tomorrow they could bleed your heart. Right? So it has to be consistently performing. All right? And the names that I have called, in my book, in my mind, my heart and soul, they have been consistent
performance. You call them out tomorrow and you put them on the field.
That's correct.
They would perform every outing.
Yeah.
Give me the referee. Give me your top referee. I know this one goes higher.
Now, you say referee, but you're talking about the person in the middle, or is it a match official?
Match official, referee, linesman,
no, well,
fourth official.
If you say match official, the best I call it myself.
No, you can't call myself. You can't call yourself. You can't call it. You can't get away with that. Give me one from the rest.
I call it myself because I've been to Premier World Cups as an official, as an instructor. Also, so outside of myself, the one that comes to the forefront, all right, maybe not many major tournaments, but because of the popularity, And also could have also did quite a good job as a referee too would be Ramesh Ramdan, who I worked with as a match official in the World Cup in France in 1998. Yes, so if we're talking about the most experienced, maybe one of the most qualified, competent referees we have in the country, all right, would be Ramesh Ramdan.
Okay.
Outside of it, if you have take an assistant referee, then it will be maybe most likely our first assistant referee. As a matter of fact, at that time they used to call them linesmen. He was the first, not only in Trinidad and Tobago, but the first in the Caribbean. Former teacher from Malik Secondary. He lives in Belmont. His name just slipping me there. Douglas James. Yes, Mr. Douglas James. He is the first person from Trinidad and Tobago to represent the Caribbean at a World Cup. Was the 1994 World Cup in the USA. Yes. Okay. When he made a very crucial decision that the world thought that was a mistake, only to know when they look at the review, he had made an excellent offside decision, which allowed him to stay on to the rest of the tournament. Yeah.
Mr. Gonzalez, great pleasure to have you on set. I think it's a pleasure every time you visit the Ascension Football Show. Feel free to come back again when the tournament starts.
Yes.
In terms of giving us some updates,
information,
letting us know what's happening with it.
Okay.
But it was a pleasure having you on set.
Certainly a pleasure being here, Mr. Edwards, and I look forward for further and more harmonious and enlightening collaboration with Ascension League. Thank you so kindly, and the very best to your company once again.
Yes, we are here to help, so it's no problem.
Appreciate that a lot.
And that's it for another Ascension show. Remember to join us on our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and watch us at our website at www.theascensionfootballshow.com.